Welcome to Motherhood. Whether you're 18 or 80, Dr. Christina Hibbert, clinical psychologist, author, and mother of 6, is here to help you through the ups and downs, the joys and frustrations, the new information from experts, and the stories of happiness and heartbreak from real moms. Remember, if you can, tell your mama to listen too.
And I'll make everything all right.
Here's Christy.
Welcome to Motherhood, everybody. It's me, Dr. Christina Hibbert, here to help you overcome, to become, and to flourish throughout this remarkable relational experience we call motherhood. I mean, if there's one thing that really defines being a mother, it is having family relationships. When you become a mother, you have children and you have relationships with them, and they have relationships with each other, and we have relationships with other people, and we're trying to just make all of our family relationships work. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, family relationships, and some of the ideas that can help us to maybe overcome some of the rivalry that we might have, sibling rivalry. How do we help our kids get along a little bit better? How do we get along with our children? How do we understand them throughout different phases of their lives? And really just kind of have more harmony in our families. And what better time to talk about this than during the holiday season, which it is right now as we record this. So we're going to be talking today with some very special guests, which actually are my family members, 2 of my cousins and my aunt who live in Chicago. And when I was out visiting to speak to some moms group about my Mastery of Motherhood survey and tour, which again, you can go to masteryofmotherhood.com to learn more about that and to be part of my new book and to take the survey and help me out with that. And when I was back there visiting, I got to stay with them for a little while, and I decided to do a radio episode with them because there's a lot of experience in their family, as you'll hear, and also they have a fabulous new business that my aunt and one of my cousins are doing together. And they never thought they would be doing something like this together. They never thought they would, have this kind of relationship. So it really goes to show you that no matter where you stand in your relationships with your children, where the relationships between your children stand today, you just never know where you might end up if you take the chance to work on those things that need to be worked on and improve those relationships. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And I'm so glad you're here with us on Motherhood each week. We just celebrated our 100th episode, so we have had a lot of time together, and I'm glad you keep coming back here. And I hope you've joined our Facebook group, Growing Through Motherhood. We're going to be relying a lot more on that as we move into our next 100 episodes, hopefully. And I really want to hear from you, what you want to know about, what you want to learn about. We're going to be focusing a lot more on parenting techniques and skills and hopefully answering some of the questions that you have specifically. So join us there on Facebook, Growing Through Motherhood. Also find me through my website, drchristinahibbert.com. You can email me there. You can read some of the articles and a lot of free resources there about all the things we talk about each week. And of course, links to my books there as well. And of course, I hope that you will also find us on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you are in social media, Dr. Christina Hibbert or Mastery of Motherhood or motherhoodtv on Instagram. You can find us and access a lot of these tools as well. Now, as I said, this was pre-recorded, so I'm just doing a little intro here, and really there's not much to say. We kind of cover it all. But as you'll hear, we have a lot of fun together, and it's we haven't seen each other a lot over the years, and there have been a lot of family dynamics over the years, not just within my own family of origin growing up, but within their family of origin growing up, and between our families, between siblings like my mother and her sister and their family of origin, and then we have our own and cousins, and I mean even one of my cousins in the show, Hillary, lived with us for a while. So we've learned a lot over the years, and we hope to share some of the insights that we've learned and gained through our experiences with you. I hope you'll also be sure to check out Neo's Nook. If you go to Etsy and look up Neo's Nook, you can find the most adorable baby clothes that my cousin and aunt make, and I hope you'll share them with others, and the prices are incredible. I mean, they are like the best baby gift ever. So if you know someone having a baby, you got to check that out. Also remember that this radio episode is on video as well. We have Motherhood TV on YouTube. So if you go to Dr. Christina Hibbert, you can also subscribe to the Motherhood TV playlist so that you just get reminders every time a new episode is uploaded. And today is one in particular that I would think you would want to watch. It's fun to see the dynamics and the faces that everybody's making as we're talking, and there's a lot of things that you can see today on the episode. So if you can, I highly suggest you switch over to the video version and watch along with us, but if not, go ahead and listen along with us, and hopefully it'll be just as entertaining. All right, everybody, without further ado, let me introduce our guests and let's get started. Well, welcome to Motherhood, family.
Thank you.
So I want to introduce my family members here, our special guests today. So, well, this is my cousin Eden. This is my Aunt Christina. This is my cousin Hillary. But I'll let them tell you a little bit about themselves too, because, you know, people want to know.
Oh,
Yeah.
give the people what they want.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so tell a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Eden, and I have 4 children. I have 3 boys and 1 girl who's 7 months. We've decided that
Almost, not yet.
almost 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
and a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old. So they obviously keep me pretty busy and pretty tired most of the time. But when we're not, we're sewing and making clothes and blankets, and
We're going to talk about their
fun doing
business.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All these adorable things she and her mother make. So, yes. Awesome. Okay.
That's the condensed version of
Condensed
my life.
version, just a little bit, little portion.
Right.
Yes.
I am Christy's aunt, obviously.
I am named after her.
She's my namesake.
Yes.
Surprisingly, I didn't know that your mother liked my name that much. So it surprises me. I am the mother of 11. My youngest is 15, and my oldest is right here at 42. So it's a wide range. There's nothing to be ashamed about.
No.
42 is good. I remember it, kind of. And 6 of my children are birth, and 5 are adopted. And I was a foster parent for about 22 years.
Yes. She has a lot of parenting wisdom we're going to go with today.
Uh-huh.
And
Well, right
Hillary.
And I am Hillary. I am Christy's cousin, you know.
We're the same age, actually.
Yeah, we're the same age, and I'm my mother's oldest daughter. And I'm an attorney, and I work at a bank and have a pet pig. So
And you have helped, you know, kind of raise.
I've
all
been
these
part of
kids.
the experiment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
That's fine. The whole time. She didn't get to escape.
I'm the original. I like to say I'm the original.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, good. So we are going to be talking today about relationships and parenting. But first, I want to just show you some of these cute things because those watching the video will notice that we have some adorable little baby clothing items here on the table. And this is part of Eden and Christina's new business, Neo's Nook. And so I want them to tell us a little bit about their business, and then we'll kind of get more into the topic. And I want you guys to show us some of these things for those who are watching the video. If you're not watching the video, you should go check out the video so you can see how cute these things are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'll let you show the stuff, and I'll tell just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of hold some.
I
You're the model.
had 5 grandsons and no granddaughters, and Eden was pregnant with a little girl for the first time. They decided to name her Neola, which is my mother's name, and call her Neo. So when we decided that we were going to at least make a few clothes, we decided that we would name our little business Neo's Nook.
Some blankets.
And I started sewing and couldn't stop. So Eden and Hillary kind of helped us get a business started, and we're on Etsy and are really enjoying it, although it is a handful trying to deal with little kids and sewing at the same time, which I'm sure lots of young mothers understand.
Absolutely. Well, and okay, so these are just the cutest things ever, and I want everybody to go to Etsy, Neo's Nook. Is that the best way? Go to Etsy and
You
then
can
just
go to
look up
Etsy,
Neo's
or
Nook.
you can go to our Facebook page, and it will
Facebook
direct you
page.
to Etsy.
It's just the cutest stuff. They take these little onesies and then just sew on these adorable little skirts and bottoms, and little adornments and these little bibs that are, oh my gosh, it's just the cutest thing ever. And then a burp cloth that goes with it. And it's all just a great price. The package set is what, $38?
$38, or you can buy just the dress by itself for $30.
Yes. They are adorable. So if you have a baby and you want them to be the best dressed baby on the block, or if you know someone who's having a baby and you want a great gift, this is great. So we'll share a little bit more about that later, but I wanted to start off with that because this is something new they've been doing. And we were talking about how they've started working together, and that kind of got us into talking about, parenting relationships and how it goes. What's going on here? Nothing?
Oh, we're just laughing because
Because we didn't plan it. It just kind of happened. We kind of fell into it.
exactly. And 20 years ago, you'd asked if these two would be best friends and if I would be doing anything with them. We probably would have said no way. So just because teenage daughters and mothers rarely see eye to eye, and it's just really interesting how children who can cause you conflict in your life end up being your very best friends and people that you really like as individuals, as people.
Yeah.
And would
I think she's saying we turned out okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, she did not like us. She did not like us growing up.
Well, that isn't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they were definitely a challenge. And they were a challenge to each other. I mean, they would tie each other's underwear in knots. They would, yell things, and I hate her.
There were
She's a
physical
stupid
fights.
sister.
The police were called one time.
Well, you wouldn't get out of my room.
She actually did call the police.
I asked her to get out of my room numerous times.
Oh,
apparently
my
that
gosh.
is not an emergency. As I learned.
Oh my gosh.
It was at the time, though, when you're in the situation.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So that's how we got started talking about all this, because it's like, Christina was saying, and she has all this parenting experience with all these kids that she's birthed in other ways, through foster and adoption, and raising them all and seeing all these different personalities. And, you started saying how important it is, you feel, for all the young moms out there and, the middle-aged moms like me, all of us, to recognize that it can get better at the end, And
To
it's
realize
not
that they keep telling you that 18 and you're free from it all. Not even close. That's really when the parenting starts, I think, is when your kids get old enough to kind of go out on their own, but you still need to help them see through the struggles. And the fun part about that is they're adults that you enjoy being around and you like helping do that. When your kids are little, sometimes they're just so annoying that you do it because you're the parent, but not because you want to.
Right.
But as they get older, you see that you really want to help them as a friend and make sure that their lives are a little bit better or easier than yours was. I mean, that's what you hope a parent will do throughout your life.
Right.
Not just up to 18 and then cut you loose.
Right, absolutely. So let's back up. What just made you decide to want to start fostering children and adopting children?
I didn't know I wanted to.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of interesting. When my youngest birth child was going to kindergarten, I wondered what I wanted to do. I had been a CASA, worked in the court system as a volunteer and done other things with children, but nothing that you could really say much other than
You weren't
PTA.
hosting any.
PTA and things like that. And I kind of went through a journey, actually. It took about a year wondering where I was going to go in my life, and I felt parenting was extremely hard. Motherhood was not an easy task for me at all. I run into friends from high school and that I thought you were going to be a businesswoman or something, an organizational kind of person, not a mother. And I said, well, I didn't know that I was going to be a mother of so many.
Yeah.
But
She's not a fan of children. She's not. I mean, she's
I
not.
used to take these guys to your mom's house to have activities because I couldn't stand the mess. I dropped them off at your house because your mom was a creative one,
Yeah.
But because everything had to be organized for me, and it was difficult. They can tell you, I spent many times going in the car saying, I'm not coming back.
Leaving.
And of course coming back because I just couldn't, it was hard.
And I just want to say, we love hearing that because it is hard for everybody at every stage. And, it's really good for everybody out there listening to hear that again. Because they probably hear, oh, you have all these children and you've done all these great things as a mom, but it's hard.
First thing people say is, oh, you must have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Well, my kids can tell you, I don't have a lot of patience for anything. I can go into a room and pull out everything out of the drawer in the closet and make everybody start from scratch. I'm one of those. But after this year-long journey, it really came to me, you're good at mothering. You need to learn to like it.
Oh.
And from that point on, I did. And I really enjoyed it. But it took me about a year to come around to realizing that I did have the skills. I just needed to get my attitude in order.
Oh, I love that.
And
You're
then-
good at mothering. You just have to learn to like it. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who could relate to that maybe are wondering if they are good enough as a mom. I think that we beat ourselves up so much about that, and you feel like you're not good enough, but to come to that realization that, I'm good at this and I can do this, and now I just want my attitude to match my skill set sort of thing.
Exactly.
Actually find joy in it.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Maybe when it's your decision,
I think that's a big
maybe
piece of it.
when it's not happening
It's
to
not-
you, but you're
yeah.
deciding to do it.
Like
Right.
sometimes you kind of feel forced into it though too.
Right.
Not knowing what it's about, but knowing that you're in a situation you can't get out of.
Right.
You know that you are a mother now, so
Yeah.
and I guess accepting that and
I think another
Learn to love
freeing
it.
piece is to let yourself, you love your children. You don't have to like all of them all the time.
Oh, that's good.
There are certain children that
she
push
tells,
you.
she tells us that.
She would tell us
You
that.
hear that a lot. Okay.
I love you, but I don't like you.
And there are times when you don't like the person that they are,
Yeah.
but you're hoping that. And the best part is, and this is the part that I really want to instill, is the best part is there is life after 18, and you can really learn to. You don't even have to learn it. It comes naturally to enjoy your children as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And for young mothers or mothers who are struggling, you got to put in the time, but there is hope and joy at the other end when you can actually interact with your Christy too, because I changed a lot of diapers on this little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And they come into their own and become adults, and you realize you really do like the people that they are, and you had a part in that. You had a big part of guiding, not changing, but guiding. And anyway, so Eden was a runaway at 16. She ran
we're
away
going there.
from home.
Okay, let's get
She
transition.
asked me
We're
about
gonna just jump
foster
into
parenting, and that was it.
Uh-huh.
So Eden ran away at 16, and it was a difficult situation. It was a scary situation. She was just down the block at a friend's house, but we didn't know that for a week.
Yeah.
They were really tight on curfew.
Yeah.
Eden was-
It
yeah.
didn't really fit my needs.
Yeah. And she stole my CD collection to fund her.
Oh no.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So
challenges of parenting.
exactly.
It's not easy. Okay, we're getting there.
So she came back, and in order for her to stay, the very first day she went back to school, she came home with this 16-year-old boy who had those, it was in the 90s, those pant legs that were this wide. You remember you could put 18 people in them. And he had blue hair, a mohawk thing, earrings all the way up,
A white lab
a
coat
white lab
with safety pins
Wow.
on it.
very.
It was
She's
a
digging
statement.
it. You guys
I mean, I didn't judge as
Right.
much as you guys did.
Well, and that is, and she asked if this boy could spend the night because his mom had locked him out of the house.
And I didn't even really know him.
No. And we said yes because we thought it would keep her at home. And it ended up being Grayson, who is now, we adopted him at 24, came at 16, and has ended up being, a very much a part of the family. And it pushed us to realize not to judge. As each child came along, it teaches you that you've got to get rid of all those perceptions that you grew up with that have been implanted in you from way back, because parenting pushes you, stretches you, makes you look beyond the act itself and still see the person who's there.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. And as they get older, you just see that more and more.
Exactly. Good or bad.
Makes it harder. That's what makes it harder when they get older.
Well, and the evolution, to see the evolution can be really fun once you get past a certain point. You know,
Right.
you look back and you go, oh, well, this is where we started from, and now we're here.
Right.
You know, and it happens
You have
so
to have that
gradually.
patience.
Well, and Grayson actually
Yeah,
will
it's
wear a
a
shirt and tie sometimes.
Right.
You know, he's cut his hair. I mean, he got married, and you know, things happen.
Yeah.
And, so you can expect good things.
Eden doesn't run away anymore.
No, well,
So-
I do try to.
Well,
But they always,
you're a mom.
They
That's
always
okay.
find out.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
They always find you.
Yeah.
Darn it. Yes. Okay, so family relationships. So I want to ask you two what it was like then having all of these, because I mean, talk about relationships. It's already hard enough to, you know, as parents, we have to try to develop relationships with each child. Whoops, dang. Okay. As parents, we have to develop relationships with each child and sibling relationships, and then suddenly you guys have new siblings coming in. I mean, you were talking about that, Hillary, like all of a sudden it's like this person just comes in and here's your new sister. And I mean, what have you guys learned through that process as far as, you know, how have you guys learned to strengthen those relationships even when they're temporary or sudden or whatever it might be?
I think we've always just approached it open arms. You know, I think that's just what we were taught. Just if someone needs something, then you help them, and so it wasn't even really an option to. I guess I just always saw that, and especially when you heard like what the history was from the person and where they were coming from, it was like, come in, you know. So I think just always having that open arms attitude hasn't made it that hard for me.
She's more open arms than I was. I mean, I was pretty resentful for a lot of years.
She's always wanted to be an only child.
Right. It's true.
She's the oldest
It's
now
true.
of all the children.
But,
And
I know.
you want to be an only child, but you're not.
Well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of what you just said about deciding to just make a choice to be happy with it and to enjoy it, you know? So there was no sense in banging your head against the wall. I mean, I had no control over how many children, you know, my family was going to bring in, or so yeah, I was resentful. You know, it just makes the pieces that you get from your parents or whatever just makes your pieces smaller, you know, the more it's divided. So I think I had a problem with that. But then once you learn how lucky you are and you see it kind of balanced against someone who comes in who doesn't have any parents, who had, you know, really bad experiences, it really humbles you and says, you know, what am I going to complain about? You know, and then it's like, well, even if I don't want to do it, I know that it's the right thing to do. And so you start from there and you do the way that you know you should do, even though the feelings may not be there.
Yeah.
But once you do it, the feelings come eventually.
Yes.
You know, you got to trick your brain into what you want it to think. You can't get there on your own.
Right. Well, it got to be at a certain point where if anybody came and stayed more than a day or two, the kids would just say,
Are they staying?
Are we adopting them?
Yeah.
I mean, they got so used
gun
to
shy.
it because in the middle, you know, we adopted Molly and Caroline and Joel, and they're a sibling group, and they came at different times, though. And so there was a time period in there where there was kind of constantly somebody new coming in that the plan was probably to adopt them.
Right.
There were lots of foster kids that we took that we didn't. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't the goal. But in this situation with those in particular, we knew that was going to be, and you know, there were issues anyway with Molly's blindness and Joel's cerebral palsy and Caroline's attitude, which we consider a handicap. I don't even think you can say handicap anymore, can you?
Right.
Disability.
It makes her handicapable.
That's right.
Anyway, so we had to adapt to a
Yeah.
lot of things, you know, and I was telling you before, it's anybody who's had anybody come into their family, whether it's a new baby or maybe it's you take in a sibling's children or whatever, it changes the entire family dynamic every single time that it happens.
Right.
Even if it's for a couple of weeks,
Mhm.
the dynamic changes in the home. And looking back, I realized that was a huge request of my children to keep adapting
Yeah.
over and over. I mean, nobody ever had the same bedrooms, you could never, I grew up, I had the same bedroom all the time. That was my bedroom, and I mean,
Yeah.
I still call it my bedroom, but same thing. And nobody ever had, that was never stable, because you were always, somebody was being
Having
added.
switch rooms or
Mhm.
just share a room.
If
or-
you ask us the room that you're staying in downstairs now, we can name about 6 people. We'll go, well, is it Caroline's or
Molly's
Carly's
old
or
room
Molly's
or baby Jane.
Who knows what?
Exactly, because it changed so often, and
Right.
that was when I hear of, see families where they have their own room and that's their room forever.
Right.
That's not a concept that my children grew up with,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I think that's telling.
Yeah. And was that hard for you guys?
I
Did you
mean,
not think about
for
that
me,
as much?
for me personally, it all was hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
I was fine as long as I didn't have to share a room with her.
Right.
Okay. So.
But
But see, here's
Yeah.
the point too, because obviously most people listening aren't foster parents or aren't adopting, and most people do have whatever children you have, and that's kind of what you have. But sibling rivalry is still there. There's still siblings that like you guys.
It's
were
just more
the first
siblings
two.
to rival with.
Yeah,
Or rival with.
but still, you guys had the biggest rivalry
Yeah.
of all the siblings, even though there were all these other ones coming in. So I mean, that would have been there regardless of.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So they knew better not to stick us in the same room.
Right.
Yes. Right. Right.
Right. But we
Right.
did.
All right, I think we shared for a minute, and then you kicked me out, and I slept on the pool table for a good couple weeks
Right.
until they got me a bed outside of the room.
Right. she had a room outside of the room where the pool table
Well,
was.
she also had a bed at one time next to the freezer in
in the
back.
basement.
Okay.
In different
That
homes,
was by
different
choice.
houses.
By choice.
That was
Yes.
by choice.
We've had children sleep
Yeah.
in the basement, in the dungeon, and by choice, in the closet, by choice.
Right.
As long as it had a door and I could, have my
You
own little
need your
corner,
own
I was fine.
space.
I was
Well,
fine.
Well, the good thing is, I think it does make you super adaptable. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
yes.
you can adapt to certain, and I think that is a good skill to have,
Right.
to not get freaked out about having to move or
Right. Having things set
know,
a certain way. all the
exactly.
time.
You
It's not
know,
like
you
that.
kind of have to go with the flow a little bit.
Well, and that's good advice for anybody. I think flexibility is just crucial
Huge,
to
yeah.
parenting in general and to
Mhm.
families.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you never know who's going to be doing what. or
And don't be
how.
surprised about anything, because it's just whatever you don't think will happen won't happen. Worse will.
Something else like it will happen.
Exactly.
Not to scare anybody.
You cannot
but-
predict.
Yes, no. And I was
Right.
at lunch on Friday with my friends in Chicago, and most of us are either empty nesters or kind of like me, half and half. And then there were a couple that just had 3-year-olds, and we were all talking about our kids and what they're doing at college and what they're not doing, whether they're not going to college and all the things that are freaking us out. And the other two are just like, I am so scared. But we're like, well, maybe it won't happen to you, but it probably will.
And you're telling them, oh, this is the easy time.
Right.
Yeah, right.
3-year-olds are the easy time.
Right,
And you're
exactly.
going like that, and they're
You're
going,
tired.
this can't be. This can't be the
Emotionally.
easy time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, when you're in it, that's the last thing you want to hear.
No.
That's the easy time. What?
No.
Physically, no. Physically, you're exhausted. But
Always.
mentally, emotionally,
Mhm.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk for a minute about sibling rivalry, like ideas for people listening, because I know that's a big issue that everybody faces, kids that just don't get along. How do we help? Like, how did you guys finally come back around? You just grew up? I mean, is that kind of
We
it?
moved away from each other.
Okay,
yeah.
That's really what it
Yeah, and really it was.
We didn't
After
really
col-
enjoy each
in
other.
college.
for-
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. And I don't remember why I didn't. We were just very different
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just never, there was no big reason, but
Yeah, right.
And there
It's
were
just how
other
it
kids
was.
to choose from to play with. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like we were, just
stuck together.
It
yeah,
wasn't just you
there
two.
was, I could go play with the boys and get along better with them, and I don't know what you were doing.
And I could.
I
was being by myself.
Introvert, it's
Yeah,
okay.
so I guess if you had more children to choose from, we just
Yes.
kind of chose, I kind of chose the other kids.
Yeah.
I remember that exact same thing with your mom. growing up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we didn't have. I really,
She's gonna go get her baby.
She's adorable. I really thought that there are a lot of things that she picked because I was the older one. She chose not to do, even though she had more talent, more abilities in a lot of areas. She chose not to do that so that she didn't.
So she was separated from you?
Yeah. Separated and not
right.
in competition because there were just lots of things that she was capable of that I don't think that she tried that I think she would have been very good at.
Yeah.
And we didn't see eye to eye at all for many years up until through college. And now, you know, your mom is absolutely the closest person that I have. And I would, and I don't know what that is. Part of it is shared experiences. Part of it is just being able to complain about your mother with somebody.
Right.
Right. Somebody who gets it.
Well, it's like being through combat, you know? You just form this bond because, and I think a lot of the kids in our family, it is an experience, you know, when you come in and live with all these people and live this lifestyle. Call it an alternative lifestyle. But I mean, you learn a lot, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like Haley's 16th birthday. Haley turned 16. That day, I got a call and they said, we have a 6-day-old baby. Would you take it?
Oh, wow.
And I didn't even talk to my husband, talk to Russ about it. I just borrowed the
She
neighbor's
never
car
did.
seat
Yeah.
and brought home this
Zach.
baby, Zach.
Wow.
And Russ walks in and says, whose baby? And I said, ours.
Wow.
And so the kids really did. I remember taking him in a little car seat. Haley was having a birthday party and we went to her condo and she had friends and I had, you know, started being a new mom with this little, you know, and I was 55 years old or something and adapting to this little, and the strange part is I never really got that everybody else had to adapt to my thing.
Yeah.
You never got that?
You told I finally did, but it was, you know, now.
Right.
No,
It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to get it.
I remember being told that it's your life, and this is
Right.
Well,
Well,
this is what you felt like you needed to do. So it wasn't our choice; it was your choice.
Right.
Well, and at some point, I do think, you know, you have to make the choices for you for certain things. And as a mother, I'm sure people have realized they make so many choices about others, and they put what they want to do aside so many times because it would disrupt or whatever. But this was something that I felt was so necessary for me. I was going to be a better person by doing this, and hopefully a better mother because it was so important.
Well, I guess at that point too, it wasn't even you couldn't even argue.
Yeah, there was no argument. We have a beautiful, you know, house, a loving family, you know, like
Right. How
You
can
have-
you not share that?
exactly. What kind of people are you if you don't?
Well, and
do
ultimately,
that.
don't you guys think it made you guys better people?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
in the long run. But
Yeah.
I thought
But
she was
it's hard,
crazy in
yeah.
the beginning.
I mean,
but-
there definitely were lots of conversations where it was like,
This is
Come
a
on,
little weird.
are-
I was just getting married, you know,
Yeah.
and I was like, that, my mom.
Yeah, it caused some real conflict.
I
with
think I
Eden.
did have a tough one with that one because I thought it was just kind of strange.
that you were going to have a baby and she had
I
a.
was, yeah,
They're
I know,
just 2
that's-
years apart, and that caused some real conflict
Yeah.
with us for a while because
That was the
she-
only time that I just couldn't,
Yeah.
you know,
She wanted
I
me
didn't
to
get
be a grandmother.
Yeah,
I was going to be
right.
a grandmother for the first time, and here I was concentrating on my
kind of
own
stealing
baby.
my thunder.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's true. That'd be hard.
And that was
Yeah.
that's probably not the only real big issue that we've ever had as adults was this. And I understood it, but it was not something that I'd say, well, no, this little baby has to go back. you
Right.
know, or go somewhere else.
But then in hindsight, you know, my son and him, you know,
Yeah.
had someone to grow up with.
Right,
Which is cool,
right.
you know, but
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking about that at the time.
Right.
You know.
Of course.
No.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, it just kind of, and what's interesting is so many of my children have gone into some form or done some form of social work
Oh.
since
Yes.
that. Both of these guys have done that. I have 2 or 3 others. I think it broadened their scope on understanding what's out there.
Right.
we weren't quite so insulated
Yeah.
from what the world had for others because we were exposed to kids who really didn't have anything.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
or kids with disabilities, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you actually had someone that you were interacting with who was blind or who had a physical disability or
Right.
something. So it made it real personal, and it brought it up close and personal, and you got firsthand experience with it.
And then you want to give back.
And then you
Oh,
say,
yeah.
yeah, and you realize not a lot of people have that experience, so they're either fearful or don't know what to do,
Right.
you know.
Right. So what would you say, Christina, are some of the things that you have had to do or learned to do to help everybody's relationships kind of come together, to help foster those relationships? Or, you know, what can other parents who are listening take away from some of the things you've learned?
Well, I think the biggest
Money helps.
I paid them all.
We love Brian.
Yeah, that's good.
Although, you know, I remember my mother who was a school teacher saying that she'd bribe her students or whatever, you know, and I think, oh, I can't believe she bribed those students. Now, I want them to do it because they want to do it.
Yeah, right, exactly. We all want that.
Every mother's tool is bribery. You know, it may not be a thing, it may be something, but that's something that you use. If you don't do this, I'm using it right now with my 15-year-old. If you don't go to bed on time, I'm not going to let you go take your driver's test. You know, you're going to use something because he's not going to want to go to bed on his own. He's not there.
Right.
But it's drawing them together. It's getting them to support one another, and that's really, I have to say, I'm real proud of my children in that even though there's lots of diverse personalities, there are some who don't care for others. You know, we've got different cultures going on in our family, different ages and levels and abilities and maturities. But it's, if the family needs you, you step up. It's just what's done, and you do not say no because it's your family. So I encourage that all the time. If somebody is in need, and we've had plenty that have had crises that have occurred, drop everything, come together.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to particularly like them, but you have to love, and you have to love this unit.
Yeah.
That's the biggest blessing, I think, of having, with all the hard stuff that you go through. It's like having like a football team, you know, at your back all the time. So nobody ever really feels lonely or maybe unsupported, you know, sometimes.
Some ways, yeah.
But just knowing that you trust your family, like she said, a lot of us don't necessarily like each other, wouldn't choose to have a meal together, but, you know.
She's speaking just for herself.
But she wanted my experience.
I want your experience. Once we know, we try.
Right, okay. But there's like great strength and like it's something that not a lot of people have, and you realize it as you meet more and more people. It is, you know, and you know that if you really need something, you got 10 people there who can help you or who will support you.
Right.
And sometimes you just call another sibling, you know, sometimes and just say, you need to reach out to this person.
Right.
They're not doing what they need to do, or they're not supporting or whatever. And so you get all of them involved, not necessarily collectively.
You know who
always.
can kind of connect with who, and
Right,
who likes who, and you know, it's a lot of different dynamics.
people that
But you can
they-
say, hey, why don't you reach out to him, you know, and talk to him about that, so I don't have to talk to him about that.
Well, and
You know,
sometimes
he
it just
can-
comes better from that person. I mean, I do that with my own kids. Like, you need to reach out to your younger sibling and do this. And I think even people that have 2 children or 3 children, it's just teaching them how to be there for each other. You know, even if there's not so many, just like you say, the family matters. We're going to be here for each other.
Well, and after
Here's
the
how you
parents
do
are
that.
gone, I mean, really, if you can
absolutely.
teach your children, and I mean, I don't have children, but I do get the benefit of this. You know, if you teach your children to be able to rely on someone and be supportive and everything, once the parents are gone, then, you know, they still
Well, it's important
Have
to build
together.
relationships with other people.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm taking from this too. And one thing that I think is really important is that I think a lot of times we take that for granted. We just kind of take our families for granted, and we don't focus on actively trying to build a relationship, either with our children or helping children to build sibling relationships.
Mhm.
You know, I've seen that with some of my older children who just, like, they don't have that relationship that I wish they had.
Well, once
I'm
they
trying
leave
to
the
help them.
house,
Yeah.
once they leave the house, I mean, when you're all in the same house, it's easy because you're all like
Right,
living
you're
a
just kinda
common
hanging out.
experience, so you're sharing all that anyway. But once you leave, you have to be a lot more, proactive about maintaining those relationships because
And-
you're not.
Well, you know, another piece that you, I didn't want to interrupt.
No,
you,
you're good.
Was growing up in my biological family, everything kind of went through my mother. So if you had an issue with somebody, you took it to the mom, and she dealt with it.
Yeah.
And that was something that impacted me a lot that I didn't want in my family. That I wanted them, if you've got an issue with somebody, go deal with it. It's not my issue. It's your issue with that person. I expect you, excuse me, to resolve that.
Right.
You cannot let that fester. That part's, my mandate. But I'm not involved in that. That's something that you need to deal with. And it's like Hillary said, so that when parents are pulled out of the equation when we die,
That's a nice way
or
to put
pulled
it.
out.
Pulled out.
When I just stop parenting,
Pulled out
they
quickly.
have their base.
Yeah.
They have their base, and hopefully, as they bring in, significant others or children or pigs, whatever we're bringing into the mix, they're surrounded by this sense of security that these people are going to support me. Not necessarily accept everything that you do, because we've had our, issues where you just. But I've had some children, I had a child who was addicted, and I couldn't do what was necessary, but they could, and for their own good, and they were able to step in and help, and that's a wonderful feeling, to feel like something that I know I should be able to do and just didn't have the strength to do.
Right.
Having another person that you trust step in and do what you can't do, or just can't emotionally face.
Absolutely. That is a team effort.
Yeah, no, it definitely brought us closer together. We had to be a team then,
Yeah.
So, and it couldn't go through you.
Oh,
With
I was the dead
going
end.
through
It
the
just
whole
kept-
addiction thing. Yeah, I mean, nothing. That situation could not go through my mother because it wasn't going to get better that way,
Yeah.
just for a lot of different reasons.
As a mother, it's just
Yeah.
She knew how to manipulate the situation, and she, couldn't say no to her daughter.
Yeah.
it was one of those where it was just an impossible
Right.
Right.
thing for me to do as a
Right.
mother, even though I knew logically what needed to be done. It
Yeah.
was just
But we could as siblings.
Right. Absolutely.
We could definitely do it as siblings.
Yeah.
So,
That's so good.
yeah.
So that's great. So everybody listening, whatever situation you are in, I guess like one takeaway that I'm taking is just to, we can all choose today to start working on those. If you feel like, if somebody's listening and thinking, gosh, we don't have that, we're not as close, or, and again, you guys shared, it hasn't always been, where everybody's getting along, and it's not always going to be like that. But you can start today to, improve things by just actively seeking out that opportunity. Hillary said something earlier, which I think is important. You do for each other. And I found that even adopting, my two nephews, at first I felt guilty that I didn't, love them the same way. And kind of like you're saying, like people come into your home and you don't automatically have that same love that you've had for this child you've raised forever. But when you start to do for them, and when you are taking care of them and you're loving them that way, that's when the feelings of love grow, right?
That's one thing
Absolutely.
Dad told me.
Oh, yes.
Because he, like she said, this wasn't really, but my both parents saying, hey, this is what we want to do, adopt these kids. It was kind of like Mom coming home and saying,
we are.
You have your work. This is mine.
Right,
mine.
and so my dad wasn't necessarily, initially on board with everything.
He wasn't out finding kids.
Right, he wasn't.
He wasn't combing the string.
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
But I remember asking him, kind of how those feelings come, because we had a lot of kids come through, and he treated everyone, the same. You would never know that he didn't love, my sibling who was adopted any differently than me. But he said, once you just start performing, I want to say acts of love, but that sounds strange. But once you start doing the things, then the feelings come afterwards, and you can trust that even if you don't feel it at the moment.
Of the feeling.
Yeah.
Eventually, as you just keep acting until it actually is real.
Yeah, because we never felt like we ought him. I mean, I remember when Grayson came when he was 16 and I was 17 or 18 and going, who the hell is this kid? Like, oh, he's my brother now? I love you, man, So it takes a little bit, but it didn't take long to say, okay, well, he's my brother. I might as well. Yeah. I guess I love him.
Right. Or you learn to.
Right, you learn to.
And the other piece of what you were saying too, Christy, I think that's kind of important is even if you're not in a good place with your relationships with siblings or whatever, that doesn't have to stay that way. You know that your mom and I have had our ins and outs back and forth where we really thought, well, this is the end. You're not my sister anymore kind of thing. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case. That draw of having that familiar thing it pulls you together no matter what. And so you might as well just face it and quit torturing yourself because you're going to go back there to that relationship because it's so significant to you. And sibling relationships are, next to your parents and your children, the most significant relationships that you'll ever have.
Right, absolutely. I keep telling my boys that, but they won't listen.
They won't.
13 and 6-year-olds just...
13 and 6,
it's not clicking unless it's over a video game. And if I can get a good half hour without tantrums or yelling or screaming or you cheated... Then it's a successful day.
Yeah, her 6-year-old and my 15-year-old
get along great.
Yeah, you never know, right? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I teach this to my children a lot because, as you know, like my closest sister is not here anymore. Mm-hmm. And I miss that. It's hard because we did have such a rocky relationship all through all those years. And then once it's gone, you realize how much you do miss growing up together because that's what you do. And then
you had so much in common. Yeah. Even though you might have.
Yeah.
And you would have been tight by now. You would. Yeah.
And we were, even when she died, we were in a good place, thank goodness. But yeah, still, I teach my kids that all the time. Like, you think you don't like them now, but they're going to be your best friend someday.
My mom used to say that to us when we were screaming and calling the police on each other. You guys are going to be best friends one day. She used to, and we would say, no, I will never be friends with her. And
now here you are. Mm-hmm. And you two are working together.
And
Like, you ever think that would happen?
You can't plan life.
The runaway.
Run away.
Who would have known?
Yeah, that's right.
Now I'm at my mother's house almost every day.
Right.
And Hillary's helping out with your children. It's like you guys
if it wasn't for Hillary, we wouldn't be able to get half the sewing done that we do.
No, there's no way because
there's too many kids floating around and trying to.
Good thing I've had lots of training.
Yes, so that's what I said. You're
baby's
like
coming
mom,
down.
pretty much. You're pretty much doing well.
Yeah, and good that she can work from home.
Yes.
Yes, that's nice.
Definitely.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Oh.
This has been
fun.
It's actually kind of therapeutic for you guys.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, we don't get to talk about stuff like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we never take a moment to actually talk about how things have been. You know what I mean? Just kind of
let it happen and hope that you don't react with a screaming fit.
Exactly.
So there's another lesson. Just start a video recording. And record it for posterity's sake.
Right.
That's right. See, now you guys can show this to all your siblings. But I want to once again show you, Neo's Nook. So this is our little Neo. Let her be the little model.
I know she'll be the little model.
She looks so cute. If you're
and
not watching,
dress on wasn't planned, but
she happens to have one of their fashions here, which is so cute. They're little onesies with these little skirts, and then the matching bibs and burp cloths is so cute. Oh my gosh, seriously. So go to Etsy and look for Neo's Nook. Go to their Facebook page, Neo's Nook.
Yep, Neo's Nook.
And buy some stuff. I don't even have babies, but I'm buying stuff. My mom's buying stuff too, and she doesn't have babies.
Your mom is buying.
I know.
She's got big plans.
She's got big plans for my
for you.
siblings and for my kids, I'm guessing. But I'm buying find them for my grandkids too. So anyway, they're really cute. You kind of can't. Wonder Woman, I mean, get out of here. Okay, and look at this, what they made for me with the tablecloth from my wedding reception. I mean,
How long ago
talk
was
about creativity.
Yeah.
22 years almost. And these cute little bloomers to go underneath. Adorable. It was so cute. Anyway, I know. Everybody needs some cute bloomers. So anyway, until next time, I hope everybody will continue to grow through motherhood and continue to do it with us here each week on Motherhood Radio. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.